Next tonight, for most new mums, caring for their newborn baby can be a time of joy and a time to bond. But what if you're a mother who is addicted to drugs or alcohol?
One clinic based in the heart of Plymouth helps to get mothers clean so that their children are not taken into care. Most of the women treated at Trevi House have used heroin or crack cocaine. Our reporter Claire Manning has been to meet just some of the women fighting to beat addiction and to keep their children.
In many ways, Trevi House looks like many other people's homes that have children. There are baby monitors, books and toys, because this is home not just to women that are fighting to overcome drug or alcohol addiction, but importantly, this is also home to their children. One of those mums is Tessa. I'm protecting Tessa's identity. Tessa hopes that by the time she leaves Trevi House, she and her son can start life afresh.
I started using heroin 13 years ago, mainly down to the relationship I got into. Prior to that, I hadn't used any drugs or anything like that. So yeah, I got with the wrong person at the wrong time in my life. I was working in a bank and had a really good job. I was buying my own house and I just got onto a slippery slope.
You were using, but you were also holding down a job at the same time. I think some people even find that surprising, don't they?
Yeah, I think everyone has the stereotypical heroin addict in their mind. Like, nobody at work had any idea. I worked for a private bank, dealing with customers, but every day using heroin. The relationship I was in was breaking down and he was very violent to me. And the things he did to me stopped me going into work, because I couldn't go into work, obviously, with a broken nose and fractured eye sockets.
That's a shock to me, I don't mind admitting that. Like, that's very violent.
Yeah, it wasn't a very nice relationship.
Tessa told me that because of her heroin addiction, her first child was removed from her care by social services. A few years later, she fell pregnant again. Tessa described to me the moment her second child was taken by social services when he was a toddler.
When I admitted I had been using heroin, the social worker said she was going out to the car to make a phone call and came back in and said that they were organising a children's car seat and that my son would be removed instantly. He went into foster care, which was the most horrific thing I have ever been through. I'll never forget it because it was absolutely torrential rain and they got me to say goodbye to him and they kept stopping the car and getting him to wave, and I just ended up collapsing on the floor and just lying in the rain, basically for a good 10-15 minutes, just sobbing. I just didn't know what to do. I just thought my world had basically come to an end.
An impossible question, but how does that feel at that moment when your boy is being taken from you?
Literally, like, my whole world fell apart. It was the most awful experience. I rang social services and asked them, is there anyone I can speak to? And they just said, we're not here for you, we are here for the child. So my first reaction was to just go and pick up a bag of gear and just go and smoke gear because I didn't know what to do.
Trevi House believes that by helping women come off drugs in a place where mums can keep their children with them, you often get better results. But I'm told that staying at Trevi is not a soft option.
Women come here and they have to go to the deepest and darkest places. They have to relive some incredibly painful memories. They have to come to terms with some of the things that they've done in life, and some of the women that are here, they haven't always made the best decisions, and people have been affected and harmed by the things they've done, and they have to face that. It's really hard, but the women that we see here that do well are those that can keep focused on their child and that hope of a better, different life.
Trevi House doesn't just put mums on a methadone programme to treat drug addiction. Women have to take part in therapy sessions. Counsellor Joanna Marshall told me that the majority of the women here have experienced abuse of some kind, which they use drugs or alcohol to mask.
The detoxing, the coming off drugs, is the top layer. So if you take away that top layer, if you haven't dealt with what's underneath, all of those things are still there. And at some point, it's likely that they will come back again. Those thoughts, feelings, beliefs that have been buried for a long time and hidden away are going to come back So unless residents have had a chance to look at those things and process them, then we'd be kind of failing in our job.
But none of this is cheap. The average cost of a placement for a mum and a child is £1,500 a week, and ideally a stay here is 6 months. And so it's up to individual local authorities to decide if they can afford to fund a woman's stay.
It's so hard, isn't it? Because local authorities are having to, year on year, they're facing cuts to their budgets. So I don't envy the position they're in. And I think sometimes you can look at an intervention like Trevi and look at it in the short term. How much does it cost a week? How much does it cost over the course of 6 months? And I guess my response is, if we can take a longer term perspective, if we can look at what the saving might be by keeping a mother and a child together, what if we enable a woman to become drug and alcohol free, avoid a life of criminality, to be able to go back into the workplace one day, to prevent future removals, then actually there's a really strong argument that a service like Trevi actually saves money.
Tessa tells me that she's tried to get clean many times in the past, but this time, with her son by her side, she says this is different.
So what is it about Trevi then that allows you the space to get better?
Everything. The routine. When you're on drugs, you don't have that routine. You don't have the help. Like, I've been with drug services back home for years now, and it's basically like, go and get a methadone prescription. There was no outside help. Here, I have to get up with my son, and he's full on from 6:30 in the morning until he goes to bed at 6:30 at night. And yeah, I don't have the time to sit and feel sorry for myself, whereas I would have if I was at home and he had been removed. The focus is my child. He is with me. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I'll grab that with both hands.
And we're going to talk a little bit more with Claire, who is in Plymouth for us this evening. Claire, Tessa's story, really moving, shocking, heartbreaking in parts to hear. What's the latest on how she's doing, first of all?
Well, look, what I didn't tell you in that report is that while Tessa was hugely grateful to her local authority for funding her stay at Trevi, she was actually only given funding for 3 months. Now, thanks to some charitable funding, that was extended very slightly, but far short of that recommended 6 months. However, I am really happy to tell you that Tessa is doing really well. She's back in her community, she's moved house, she's with her child, life is good. But Trevi tell me that she is just one of many women across the country who would benefit from a stay at Trevi, but many local authorities say it's just too expensive to send women there, saying that £38,000 for a 6-month stay is just too great. But one local authority that Trevi has a really good working relationship with is Bristol, and in tomorrow night's programme I'll bring you the story of Jolene from Bristol. Now, for many years Jolene has battled an addiction to crack cocaine, but as you'll see in my pictures, she speaks to me, she hasn't had her identity disguised. Very brave of Jolene, because she knows tomorrow night some people watching her will judge her, but what she hopes is that people will listen with empathy to her story and, importantly, listen to what she says is the remarkable work that Trevi House carry out.
OK, Claire Manning, for now, thank you very much indeed.